9-year-old Madison Bennett watched from the top of the stairs as her father loaded suitcases into his car. Her twin sister Harper stood beside him, crying but obedient, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. It was 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and their family was being torn apart. "I don't understand," Madison whispered to her mother, Rachel, who stood frozen in the hallway, her face pale with shock and rage. "Why is Harper leaving with Daddy? Where are they going?" Rachel knelt down, pulling Madison close. "Your father he's moving out. He's going to live somewhere else. And he's taking Harper with him. But why can't I go too? We're twins. We're supposed to stay together." Rachel's voice cracked. "I know, baby. I know. But your father, he made a choice. He's choosing to take Harper and leave you here with me." Madison's 9-year-old mind couldn't process what was happening. Her parents had been fighting for months. She'd heard the arguments through her bedroom wall. Her father, Robert Bennett, had been distant and cold. Her mother had been increasingly desperate and angry. But Madison never imagined her father would actually leave, and she definitely never imagined he would take Harper but not her. Robert walked back toward the house. Madison ran down the stairs. "Daddy, wait! I want to come too! Don't leave me!" Robert looked at his daughter, one of his identical twin daughters, and his face was a mask of controlled indifference. "Madison, you're staying here with your mother. Harper is coming with me. That's how it's going to be." "But why? Why does Harper get to go and I have to stay?" "Because I said so." His voice was cold, final. Harper appeared in the doorway, her face streaked with tears. "Madison, I don't want to leave you. I want to stay together." "Then stay." Madison grabbed her sister's hand. "Don't go with him. Stay here with me and Mom." But Robert pulled Harper away. "Harper, get in the car. Now." Rachel stepped forward, her voice shaking with fury. "Robert, you can't do this. You can't split up twins. They're 9 years old. They need each other. I'm their father. I have joint custody. I'm exercising my right to have Harper live with me. Joint custody means shared time with both children, not taking one and abandoning the other. I'm not abandoning Madison. She's staying with her mother. That's perfectly reasonable. What's reasonable about tearing apart twins who've been together their entire lives?" Robert's mask slipped for just a moment, and Madison saw something ugly underneath. Resentment, coldness, calculation. "Harper is coming with me. Madison stays with you. End of discussion." He put Harper in the car, buckled her seatbelt while she sobbed, and drove away without looking back. Madison stood in the driveway, watching the car disappear, her whole world crumbling. Her twin sister, her other half, her best friend, the only person who truly understood her, was gone. And her father had chosen Harper, not her. "Why didn't Daddy want me?" Madison asked her mother, tears streaming down her face. Rachel held her daughter, her own tears mixing with Madison's. "I don't know, baby. I don't know." But Rachel did know. Over the next weeks, as she pieced together what had happened, the truth emerged in devastating clarity. Robert had been having an affair for 2 years with his co-worker, Vanessa Pierce. Vanessa was younger, childless, and had made it clear from the beginning. If Robert wanted a future with her, he couldn't bring 2 children into the relationship. 1 child, maybe. She could handle 1, but not twins. Robert had looked at his identical daughters and made an impossible choice. He'd chosen Harper. The custody battle that followed was vicious. Rachel fought desperately to get Harper back, to reunite the twins. But Robert had money, expensive lawyers, and a calculated strategy. He argued that the divorce was contentious, that the girls were being used as weapons, and that splitting them between households would give each girl individual attention they wouldn't get competing with a twin. Twins often struggle with individual identity, Robert's lawyer argued in court. By allowing each child to develop separately, we're giving them the opportunity to become their own people rather than half of a unit. "You're describing separating them as if it's therapeutic," Rachel's lawyer countered. "These girls have been together since conception. They're identical twins with a profound bond. Separating them is traumatic, not beneficial." The judge ultimately ruled that joint custody would stand, but modified it. Each parent would have primary custody of 1 twin, with visitation every other weekend and holidays split. It was the worst possible outcome. Madison would live primarily with Rachel. Harper would live primarily with Robert, and, by extension, Vanessa. The twins were officially separated. The first few months were devastating for both girls. Harper called Madison every night, sobbing, "I hate it here. Vanessa is mean to me. She says I'm messy and annoying, Daddy is different. He's not fun anymore. He just tells me to be quiet and stay out of Vanessa's way. Then come home, Madison begged. Tell the judge you want to live with me and Mom. Daddy says if I do that, he'll stop paying for anything. He says Mom is trying to turn us against him. Madison, I'm scared. I want to come home, but I don't know how. Madison told her mother everything. Rachel immediately filed for emergency custody modification, citing emotional abuse and coercion. But when the court investigator interviewed Harper, she clammed up. Robert had coached her carefully. Everything's fine, Harper said mechanically. I like living with my dad. I miss Madison, but we video chat all the time. The petition was denied. 2 years passed. Harper and Madison saw each other every other weekend when Harper came to Rachel's house for visitation, but the visits were strained. Harper seemed different, quieter, more anxious, walking on eggshells. Madison grew angry and resentful, not at Harper but at the situation. Why did Dad choose you and not me? Madison finally asked during one visit when they were 11 years old. Harper looked miserable. I don't know. I've asked him 100 times. He just says it worked out better this way. Do you think it's because I look more like Mom? Or because I'm not as good at sports? Or because it's not about you, Madison. It's about Vanessa. She didn't want kids at all, but Dad convinced her to accept me. He couldn't convince her to accept both of us. Madison absorbed this. So I wasn't chosen because Vanessa didn't want me. She doesn't really want me either, Harper said quietly. She tolerates me because she loves Dad. But Madison, she's mean. She criticizes everything I do. She says I'm too loud, too messy, too needy. Dad doesn't defend me. He just tells me to try harder to get along with her. Harper, you have to tell Mom. We can get you out of there. I can't. Dad said if I cause problems, he'll cut Mom off completely. He's paying her child support for you. He said he'll stop if I don't cooperate. And Madison, I know Mom needs that money. I can't be the reason you guys struggle. Madison felt rage build in her chest. Her father wasn't just separating them. He was using Harper as a hostage to control their entire family. By the time the twins were 13, the situation had reached a breaking point. Harper showed up for her visitation weekend with bruises on her arms. What happened? Rachel demanded. I fell, Harper said automatically. Harper, please, tell me the truth. Harper broke down. Vanessa grabbed me. We got in a fight because I forgot to put my dishes in the dishwasher. She grabbed my arms and shook me and yelled that I was disrespectful and ungrateful. Dad saw it happen and he didn't do anything. He just told me to apologize to her. Rachel documented the bruises with photos, took Harper to a doctor to get them officially recorded, and filed an emergency motion with the court. This time, the judge listened. Mr. Bennett, is it true that your partner Vanessa Pierce physically grabbed your daughter hard enough to leave bruises? Robert looked uncomfortable. It was a disciplinary situation that got out of hand. Vanessa was frustrated. Harper can be difficult. A 13-year-old with bruises is not a disciplinary situation. Mr. Bennett, I'm ordering a full custody evaluation. Until it's complete, Harper will return to her mother's primary custody. You'll have supervised visitation only. Robert's face darkened with rage. Your Honor, this is Rachel poisoning the girls against me. This is bruises on a child, Mr. Bennett. We'll revisit custody after the evaluation. Bailiff, please ensure Mr. Bennett understands the restraining order that will be in place protecting both children from Ms. Pierce. Harper came home. After 4 years of separation, the twins were finally reunited under their mother's roof, but the damage had been done. Harper had trust issues, anxiety, and nightmares. Madison had abandonment issues and resentment toward her father that would take years to process. And both girls had to navigate the complicated truth. Their father had looked at 2 identical daughters and decided one was worth keeping, one was worth leaving behind. 6 months after Harper returned to Rachel's custody, the court-appointed custody evaluator, Dr. Patricia Chen, completed her investigation. The twins sat nervously in their mother's living room as Rachel read the report aloud, her hands shaking. The evaluator interviewed both girls extensively. Rachel said, Harper, Madison, you need to hear this. Dr. Chen concluded that your father's household was emotionally abusive and unsuitable for a child's development. She documented Vanessa's verbal abuse, your father's passive complicity, and the psychological damage you experienced, Harper. Harper looked down at her hands. Does it say why Dad chose me instead of Madison? Rachel's voice caught. Yes, it does. And honey, it's not what we thought. The report revealed a truth so cruel that Rachel had debated whether to share it with her 13-year-old daughters, but they deserved to know. Robert had chosen Harper not randomly, not because of personality or preference. He'd chosen Harper because Vanessa had insisted on it, and Vanessa's reasoning was calculated and disturbing. In her interview with Dr. Chen, Vanessa had been chillingly honest. Robert's ex-wife Rachel and Madison look very similar. Same build, same facial structure, same mannerisms. Harper looks slightly different. She's taller, her face is narrower. I could tolerate having Harper around because she doesn't remind me constantly of Rachel, but Madison is like a mini version of the woman Robert used to be married to. I couldn't live with that. Robert had chosen which daughter to take, based on which one his mistress-turned-girlfriend could stand to look at. "I'm so sorry," Rachel said, tears streaming down her face. "Harper, you weren't chosen because you were better or more lovable. You were chosen because you look less like me. And Madison, you weren't rejected because of anything wrong with you. You were rejected because Vanessa is a cruel, petty woman, and your father was too weak to stand up to her." Madison felt the words sink in like stones. For 4 years, she'd wondered what was wrong with her, why Harper was worth keeping and she wasn't, and now she knew. She looked too much like her mother. That was her crime. Harper was crying. "So I've spent 4 years living with Dad and Vanessa, being treated like garbage, and it was all because I don't look as much like Mom. That's why I was taken?" "That's what the report indicates," Rachel confirmed. "And Harper, Dr. Chen's recommendation is clear. Your father should have minimal supervised visitation with both of you, full custody to me. She doesn't believe Robert is capable of putting your needs before Vanessa's demands." The custody hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. In court, Robert's lawyer tried desperately to discredit Dr. Chen's report. "Your Honor, Ms. Pierce's comments were taken out of context. She was simply acknowledging that Harper's appearance made the blended family dynamic easier." "Made it easier to abuse her?" Rachel's lawyer interrupted. "Mr. Bennett chose which child to remove from her twin based on his girlfriend's preference. He subjected Harper to 4 years of emotional abuse and physical violence. He abandoned Madison based on criteria no parent should use. Physical resemblance to an ex-spouse. This isn't custody. It's selection." The judge reviewed Dr. Chen's extensive report. Then she looked at Robert with barely concealed disgust. "Mr. Bennett, I've been a family court judge for 20 years. I've seen parents make terrible decisions out of addiction, mental illness, desperation. But what you did was calculated cruelty. You looked at your identical twin daughters and chose one based on which one your girlfriend preferred. You subjected Harper to years of abuse. You abandoned Madison for no reason except spite toward your ex-wife." "Your Honor, I love both my daughters. You don't love them. If you loved them, you wouldn't have separated them. You wouldn't have tolerated your partner abusing one while the other wondered why she wasn't good enough to keep. Mr. Bennett, I'm terminating your custody rights entirely. You'll have supervised visitation once a month, if the girls choose to see you. Ms. Bennett has full legal and physical custody of both children." Robert stood, his face red with rage. "You can't do this. They're my daughters. They were your daughters. You gave up that privilege when you treated them like objects to be distributed based on convenience. This hearing is adjourned." As they left the courthouse, Harper and Madison held hands, finally safe, but the emotional damage would take years to heal. Therapy became a routine part of the twins' lives. Harper saw Dr. Sandra Williams twice a week to process the trauma of living with Vanessa and Robert. Madison saw Dr. Marcus Freeman to work through abandonment issues and the identity crisis of being the rejected twin. "I spent 4 years believing there was something wrong with me," Madison told Dr. Freeman during one session. "I analyzed everything. My grades, my behavior, my appearance, trying to figure out why Dad didn't want me. And now I know it was because I look like Mom. How am I supposed to process that? Your father made a choice that had nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with his weakness," Dr. Freeman said gently. "He prioritized his relationship with Vanessa over his responsibility to both of you. That's his failure, not yours. But I still feel damaged, like there's something about me that made it easy for him to leave me behind. That feeling is normal after abandonment. But Madison, the truth is clear. You weren't rejected because of who you are. You were rejected because of circumstances beyond your control, your physical resemblance to your mother. If you and Harper had switched places, you would have been the one taken, and she would have been the one left behind. The choice was arbitrary and cruel, but it wasn't personal. Harper was processing her own trauma. "I feel guilty," she told Dr. Williams. "Madison was safe with Mom while I was suffering with Dad and Vanessa. But I also know, if Dad had taken Madison instead, she would have been the one suffering. So what was I supposed to do? Be glad it was me and not her? Feel guilty that I was chosen? Resent her for being safe? You're allowed to feel all of those things," Dr. Williams said. "Survivor's guilt is real. But Harper, you were a child. You had no control over your father's decisions. He's the one who created this no-win situation." At home, Rachel worked to help the twins reconnect. They'd been separated during crucial developmental years, ages 9 to 13, when twins typically solidify their bond and individual identities. Now they had to rebuild a relationship that had been fractured by forced separation. "We're different now," Harper said one night as they lay in their shared bedroom, a room they'd requested despite having space for separate rooms. "We used to know everything about each other. Now we have 4 years of experiences the other one wasn't part of. Tell me about it," Madison said. "Tell me everything that happened with Dad and Vanessa. Even the bad parts, especially the bad parts. I need to understand what you went through." Harper talked for hours. About Vanessa's constant criticism, about being told she was ungrateful, messy, too loud, too needy, about her father's cold indifference and his repeated message that she should be thankful he'd chosen her, about the isolation of living in a house where she wasn't wanted, separated from the sister who was her other half. "I thought about running away so many times," Harper admitted, "just showing up at Mom's door and refusing to leave. But Dad said if I did that, he'd stop paying child support, and I knew Mom was struggling. I couldn't make things harder for you and Mom, just because I was miserable. You sacrificed yourself to protect us," Madison said, crying. "Harper, you shouldn't have had to do that. You were a kid. So were you. And you spent 4 years wondering why you weren't good enough. At least I knew why I was there, even if it sucked. You didn't even have answers." They cried together, finally sharing the pain that had been building for years. 1 year after Harper's return, the twins celebrated their 14th birthday together, the first birthday they'd spent together in 4 years. Rachel threw a party with their friends, decorations, cake, presents, but the best gift was simply being together. "Make a wish," Rachel said, as they stood over the cake, candles flickering. Harper and Madison looked at each other, then blew out the candles together. "What did you wish for?" their friend Sophia asked. "That we never have to be separated again," they said in unison, then laughed, the twin connection starting to return. But healing wasn't linear. Harper had nightmares about Vanessa. Madison had trust issues with male authority figures. Harper struggled with perfectionism, terrified of being difficult after years of being told she was annoying. Madison struggled with self-worth, still processing the message that she was unlovable enough to abandon. Their relationship had moments of tension too. Harper sometimes resented Madison for the 4 years of safety she'd had with Rachel. Madison sometimes resented Harper for being the chosen one, even though she knew logically that Harper had suffered more. "We're works in progress," Rachel told them during a family therapy session. "Healing from what your father did will take years, maybe a lifetime, but you're together now. That's what matters." 2 years after reunification, 16-year-old Harper and Madison sat at the kitchen table with a stack of unopened letters from their father. For 24 months, Robert had been sending monthly letters during his supervised visitation windows, visits the twins had consistently refused to attend. "We should at least read them," Harper said, though her hand shook as she picked up the first envelope. "Why?" Madison asked. "What could he possibly say that would make any of this okay? Maybe nothing, but we're old enough now to make informed decisions. We can't avoid him forever without at least knowing what he's saying." Rachel sat with them, offering silent support as they opened the letters chronologically. The first few were brief, impersonal. "Harper and Madison, I hope you're doing well in school. I'd like to see you during my scheduled visits. Love, Dad." But as the months progressed, the letters became more desperate, more revealing. "Dear Harper and Madison, I know you're angry. You have every right to be. I've spent 2 years in therapy trying to understand the choices I made. My therapist says I prioritized my relationship with Vanessa over my responsibility to you. She's right. I was weak and selfish. I've left Vanessa. That relationship ended 6 months after the custody hearing. I see now that she was toxic, manipulative, and cruel. I should have protected you, Harper, from her abuse. I should have fought to keep both of you together. Instead, I made choices that damaged you both irreparably. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want the chance to apologize in person, to look you both in the eyes and tell you that I was wrong, that you deserved better, that I failed as a father. Madison read the letter twice. He left Vanessa. That's what it took, losing custody of both of us, for him to finally leave her. He's saying he wants to apologize, Harper said carefully. Maybe we should let him. Why? So he can feel better about himself? His guilt isn't our responsibility to manage. No, but Madison, we're carrying this weight too. Maybe hearing him apologize would help us move forward. They brought the letters to their joint therapy session with Dr. Elena Martinez, who'd been helping them navigate their healing together. What do you both need from your father? Dr. Martinez asked. Not what he needs from you. What do you need? Harper thought carefully. I need him to acknowledge what he did to me. 4 years of living with Vanessa, being told I was annoying and ungrateful. He saw it happening and did nothing. I need him to say out loud that he failed me. And you, Madison? I need him to explain why I wasn't worth keeping. I know intellectually it was about my resemblance to Mom, but I need to hear him say it. I need him to acknowledge that he looked at 2 identical daughters and chose one based on his girlfriend's preference, that he abandoned me for something I couldn't control. Those are both reasonable needs, Dr. Martinez said. The question is, do you believe your father is capable of meeting those needs? And more importantly, are you emotionally prepared for the possibility that he won't, that his apology might be self-serving or insufficient? The twins looked at each other, that wordless twin communication passing between them. We should go, they said together, one time, and if he can't give us what we need, we never see him again. The supervised visit took place at a family therapy center with Dr. Martinez present. Robert Bennett looked older, grayer, thinner, worn down by guilt and isolation. He'd lost his daughters, his girlfriend, and according to the letters, many of his friends who'd learned the truth about what he'd done. Thank you for coming, Robert said, his voice shaking. I know I don't deserve this chance. You don't, Madison said coldly. So don't waste it. Robert nodded. Harper, I owe you an apology that's 7 years overdue. I took you from your mother and sister and placed you in a home where you were emotionally abused. I watched Vanessa criticize you, demean you, and ultimately hurt you physically, and I did nothing. I chose my relationship with her over your safety and well-being. That's unforgivable. Harper's eyes filled with tears. Why didn't you protect me? You're my father. You were supposed to protect me. I told myself I was doing what was best for everyone, that the divorce was hard on all of us, that sharing custody was the mature solution. But the truth is, I was a coward. Vanessa said she'd leave if I brought both of you into the relationship. I chose her over you, and then when I saw how she treated you, I convinced myself it wasn't that bad, that you were resilient, that you'd adjust. I made excuses because facing the truth would have meant admitting I'd made a catastrophic mistake. And what about me? Madison interrupted. What's your excuse for leaving me behind? Robert turned to his other daughter, and for the first time in 7 years, really looked at her. You look exactly like your mother did at your age. Every time I saw you, I was reminded of my failed marriage, my mistakes, my guilt. Vanessa couldn't stand to see you because you reminded her that I'd been married before. And I took the easy path. I took Harper because she was slightly less painful to look at. Not because she was better or more lovable or anything to do with who you are as a person. Madison, you were abandoned because I was too weak and selfish to face my own failures. Madison felt something crack open in her chest. Years of wondering, questioning, analyzing herself. And the answer was so simple and so horrible. She reminded him of his mistakes. That's it? She asked. I spent 7 years wondering what was wrong with me, and it was just that I look like Mom. There was never anything wrong with you. The problem was me. All me. Do you understand what you did to us? Harper asked, her voice rising. You didn't just separate us. You made Madison believe she was unlovable. You made me live in hell for 4 years. You destroyed our childhood, our trust, our sense of safety. And for what? A relationship with Vanessa that didn't even last? Robert's face crumpled. I know. God, I know. I wake up every day knowing I destroyed my daughter's lives. I've lost everything. My family, my self-respect, any claim to being a decent person. And I deserve it. But Harper, Madison, I need you to know. My failures are not your fault. You were never the problem. You were perfect, and I was broken. Dr. Martinez spoke gently. Girls, your father has apologized and taken responsibility. The question now is, what do you need from him going forward? Harper and Madison looked at each other, having one of their silent twin conversations. Then Harper spoke. "We need you to stay away, not because we haven't heard your apology, but because every time we see you, we're reminded of the worst years of our lives. You're a trigger for trauma we're still healing from. So, Dad, if you really love us, if you really want what's best for us, you'll let us go. No more letters, no more visits, no contact until we're adults and we decide, if we decide, that we're ready. And even then," Madison added, "you might never hear from us again. That's the consequence of your choices. You don't get to be our father anymore. You gave up that right when you treated us like objects to be distributed based on convenience." Robert was crying now. "I understand. If that's what you need, I'll respect it. But please know, both of you, that I love you. I always have. I just loved myself more, and that's my eternal shame." They left without hugging him, without looking back. And as they walked out of the family therapy center into the bright afternoon, both twins felt lighter. They'd gotten what they needed: acknowledgement, apology, truth, and they'd set a boundary that protected their healing. 2 years later, 18-year-old Harper and Madison were preparing for college. They'd been accepted to several universities, some together, some separately. The question of whether to attend the same school became a proxy for a larger question. Were they individuals or a unit? "We've been forced apart and forced together," Harper said during a family therapy session. "First, we were separated by Dad. Then we were reunited. But we never got to choose. I don't know if I want to go to the same college because I genuinely want to, or because I'm afraid of being separated again. And I don't know if I want separate schools because I need independence, or because I'm still angry about being the rejected twin. And I want to prove I don't need you," Madison admitted. Dr. Martinez smiled. "Both of those are valid motivations to examine. But let me ask you this. What would healthy twin separation look like? Not traumatic forced separation like what your father did, but natural developmental independence." They discussed it for weeks. Eventually, they decided on a compromise. They'd attend universities in the same state but different cities. Harper chose Portland State University for psychology. Madison chose University of Oregon in Eugene for pre-law. Close enough to visit, far enough to have separate lives. "We're choosing to be together but also separate," Madison explained to their mother. "On our terms, not Dad's." But just before they left for college, they received unexpected news. Their father had remarried to a woman named Caroline and had a daughter. Their half-sister was named Lily, and she was 3 years old. The letter came from Caroline, not Robert. "Dear Harper and Madison, my name is Caroline Bennett. I married your father 2 years ago. I know about what happened with you and your sister. Robert told me everything before we got serious. I want you to know, I would never allow what Vanessa did. I insisted on family therapy for Robert before we had children together. You have a half-sister, Lily. She's 3 years old and she knows she has 2 big sisters she's never met. I'm writing because Lily will be old enough soon to ask questions. I don't want to force a relationship you don't want, but I also don't want to lie to her about family. If you're ever interested in meeting her, we're open to it. No pressure, no expectations. Just an open door if you ever want to walk through it. Caroline." The twins sat with this information for months. They had a half-sister, an innocent 3-year-old who'd done nothing wrong. "She deserves to know us," Harper said finally during their winter break. "Not because Dad deserves our forgiveness, but because Lily is our sister." "Half-sister," Madison corrected. "We're not half anything to each other," Harper said firmly. "Lily is our full sister. Biology doesn't determine that. Choice does." They reached out to Caroline and arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a park in Portland with Rachel present for support. Lily was beautiful. Dark curly hair, hazel eyes, a smile that lit up her whole face. She ran to them with 3-year-old enthusiasm. "You're my big sisters," she said, hugging their legs. "Mommy showed me pictures." Harper and Madison felt their hearts crack open. This little girl was innocent, joyful, completely untainted by their father's past cruelty. "Hi, Lily," Harper said, kneeling down. "I'm Harper. This is Madison. We're your big sisters. Are you twins? You look the same. We are twins. And you know what? That makes you extra special. You have 2 big sisters instead of 1. They spent the afternoon playing with Lily in the park. Caroline stayed at a respectful distance, letting them bond. Robert wasn't present. Caroline had been clear that the girls had requested he not attend, and she'd respected that. Before they left, Lily hugged them both. "Will you come back? I want to see my sisters again." Harper and Madison looked at each other, then at their mother. who nodded encouragingly. "We'll come back," Madison promised. "Lily, you're our sister. We want to know you." As they drove home, Harper said quietly, "We're breaking the cycle. Dad tore us apart. We're not going to do that to Lily. She gets to have both of us, equally, always." "Agreed," Madison said. "Lily doesn't suffer for Dad's mistakes. She gets something we never had, sisters who choose her unconditionally." Over the next 7 years, they built a genuine relationship with Lily, while maintaining distance from Robert. They attended her school plays, her birthdays, her graduations. They became the big sisters Lily deserved, and Robert, true to his word, stayed in the background. Caroline facilitated the relationship without pushing for more than the twins were willing to give. At 25, Harper and Madison were thriving adults living separate but connected lives. Harper had completed her master's in family therapy and specialized in sibling separation trauma, helping other families navigate the damage their father had inflicted on them. Madison had graduated law school and worked as a child advocate attorney, fighting in family court to keep siblings together. They lived in different cities now, but talked daily. They'd built healthy individual identities while maintaining their twin bond. And they'd both been in therapy for years, processing the trauma of their childhood. Then the call came from Caroline. Robert had been diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. He had 6 months to live, maybe less, and he wanted to see his daughters one final time. "I promised I'd pass along the message," Caroline said, "but there's no pressure. I told him you might say no, and that would be your right. He's just asking if you'd be willing to say goodbye." The twins met at their mother's house to discuss it. Rachel, now 63, had built a successful life as a consultant and had recently remarried to a kind man named David, who treated her daughters like his own. "What do you want to do?" Rachel asked. "I don't know," Harper admitted. "Part of me thinks he doesn't deserve a goodbye. He destroyed our childhood. But another part of me wonders if I'll regret not seeing him one last time." "I don't want to go," Madison said firmly. "He made his choices. He lived with the consequences. I don't owe him peace on his deathbed." "That's valid," Rachel said. "Both of your feelings are valid. Harper, if you want to go, Madison doesn't have to. And Madison, if you choose not to go, Harper's choice doesn't obligate you." It was the first time in their lives they'd made different choices about their father. Harper decided to visit him once. Madison decided not to. "I'm not angry at you for going," Madison told her twin. "You need closure in a different way than I do. I respect that. And I'm not judging you for staying away," Harper replied. "You drew your boundary years ago. I respect that too." Harper went to the hospice alone. Robert was unrecognizable, gaunt, pale, hooked to machines, but his eyes were still the same. "Harper, you came. I didn't think you would. I almost didn't. But Harper Bennett doesn't do things halfway. If I'm going to refuse to forgive you, I want to look you in the eye when I do it." Robert managed a weak smile. "That's fair. Is Madison?" "No. She made her choice. She doesn't want to see you. And Dad, you need to respect that, even now." "I do. I respect it completely." He paused, struggling for breath. "Harper, I don't want to waste your time with more apologies. You've heard them all. I just want to tell you one thing. Watching you become a therapist who helps families like ours, families I damaged, that's been my only redemption. You took the worst thing I did and turned it into purpose. That's remarkable. I didn't do it for you. I did it so other kids don't suffer what Madison and I suffered. I know. But Harper, please hear this. You and Madison deserved better. You deserved a father who loved you equally and unconditionally. You deserved to grow up together, safe and loved. I stole that from you, and I've spent the last decade knowing I can never give it back. But I want you to know, both of you were always enough, always perfect, always worthy. The problem was never you. It was always me." Harper felt tears stream down her face. Not for him, but for the 9-year-old girl who'd watched her father drive away with her sister. For the 13-year-old who'd finally gotten her twin back. For the 25-year-old woman who'd built a life despite him, not because of him. "I hope you find peace, Dad, but I can't give it to you. That's not my responsibility." "I know. Thank you for coming. Tell Madison. Tell her I understand why she didn't. And I'm proud of both of you." Harper left without saying goodbye. She'd gotten what she needed. A final acknowledgement that their father's choices were his burden to carry, not theirs. 3 months later, Robert died. Caroline called to inform them. Harper attended the funeral out of respect for Lily, now 10 years old, and grieving her father. Madison sent flowers but didn't attend. At the funeral, Harper gave a eulogy that was honest in ways most eulogies aren't. My father made choices that shaped my life in profound and painful ways. He separated me from my twin sister for 4 years. He prioritized his own comfort over our well-being. He damaged us in ways we're still healing from. But he also gave me and Madison life. He gave us our sister Lily. And in his final years, he tried, imperfectly, insufficiently, but genuinely, to take responsibility for what he'd done. I don't forgive him, but I understand him, and I hope he's finally found the peace he couldn't find in life. After the funeral, Lily hugged Harper tightly. I'm scared I'll forget him. You won't, Harper promised. And whenever you want to remember your dad, you call me or Madison. We'll tell you stories, the good ones and the hard ones. Because Lily, you deserve to know the whole truth about who he was. Did he love you and Madison? I think he did, in his own broken way. But love isn't enough if it's not backed up by action. Remember that, Lily. Love without respect, without protection, without sacrifice. That's not really love at all. At 55, Harper and Madison sat together in Harper's backyard, watching their combined families celebrate a joint birthday party for their grandchildren. They'd built beautiful, messy, complicated lives filled with love and purpose. Harper had written a book about sibling separation trauma that had become required reading in family law courses. Madison had argued landmark cases that strengthened sibling rights in custody disputes. Together, they'd changed the legal and therapeutic landscape for families like theirs. Lily, now 40, sat with them, her own children playing with their cousins. She'd grown up knowing the full truth about her father, his failures, and his final attempts at redemption. Do you ever regret not forgiving him? Lily asked. Before he died? No, Harper said simply. Forgiveness isn't something you owe people. It's a gift you give when it serves your healing. Refusing to forgive Dad served my healing more than offering forgiveness would have. But you went to see him at the end, Lily pointed out. I did. Not to forgive him, but to release myself from needing anything from him. That was my closure. Madison got her closure by refusing to see him. Different paths, same destination. Peace. Madison added, Lily, your dad made terrible choices, but he also helped create you, and you've been nothing but a gift to us. So maybe some good came from it after all. As the sun set over the backyard full of family, Harper and Madison sat side by side, two halves of a whole, separated by cruelty and reunited by choice, forever bound by something deeper than blood, survival, resilience, and the unbreakable knowledge that they'd always choose each other.